Well, hello everybody, and welcome to our final video series of this Christmas day. We are at Trojanpear's Book Club Readosaurus. Are we ready to discuss this month's book? This month's book, of course, is a Christmas book, since we are on the Christmas season. And this is actually a Christmas Day video. So we are going to pick a classic from my childhood anyway. It was actually written when I was just a little baby. The Polar Express. This is written by, well, it's not just written, but the pictures that are in this book, The Polar Express, which was written in 1985 by Chris Van Allsburg. Now, one of the things I tend to like to do is read these little inserts or end parts. And so let's start with the introduction of what this story is about. It says, a young boy, lying awake one Christmas Eve, is welcomed aboard a magical train to the North Pole. Through dark forests, over tall mountains, and across a barren desert of ice, the Polar Express makes its way to the huge city standing alone at the top of the world, where the boy will make his Christmas wish. For millions of readers around the world, this mysterious journey to the North Pole has become a beloved Christmas classic. In this 13th anniversary edition, the inimitable artistry of Chris Van Allsburg is showcased with a bold new jacket design and expanded interior layout. The author's note plus a gold foil ornament are included at the back. Of course, I already took out the ornament a long time ago, so I don't even know where that is. This special edition of the Polar Express is the perfect gift for all those of any age who will believe, come Christmas Eve, that they too will hear the sweet sound of a reindeer's silver bell. Now, if you're familiar with the Polar Express, I don't know which one you've experienced first, whether it was this book, which of course it's got those gold medals there. That's always a good sign that you're reading something special. Or if you actually are familiar with it from the movie. The movie has been seen by a lot of people, but it came out well after the book had come out. So if you were familiar with the book before the movie, but since the movie's out, you're probably more familiar with the movie. I personally have done both. I think I may have read this sparingly, very, very sparingly, once or twice before the movie ever came out. And so when the movie came out, I actually did not really realize that this was a book that I had read some time ago. But when the movie came out, then of course I got the book then again to complement it. The movie actually does a very, very good job of staying true to some of the key things of this. But of course, you know, this is a children's book, so very limited on what it has on there. So the movie has to do a lot to be able to fill that time in a book like this. But one of the key things is, if you look at the illustrations in the book, you're going to see that most of the main points in here are pretty well kept up with. You see there's a moment there with the hot chocolate. That was a whole song and dance routine that they did in the movie. You see here the imagery of the wolves, which there was a whole part with the ticket, which kind of featured that a little bit. Um, this is actually somewhat surprising because it does have it going around the mountain like that, which they did a really cool imagery of that in the movie, which I thought was really neat. I actually like how the movie does it better than the book, for that matter. And of course, let's see if I can find. It's stuck on my fingers. You know, the celebration for Santa Claus coming out. That was a big deal. How about this one? The elf there telling them to come on did a very similar thing like that in the movie as well. And a lot of similar things. Now, here's the interesting thing. This is one of the few times you actually get to see all the different kids in here. And this is where you kind of notice that it looks a little different than what you're used to seeing as far as the characters. But again, you aren't really invested in that, so that's a fine change. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. The characters were very good in the movie. So, the key points of the story. In fact, the very last page there is the very last part of the movie exactly. It's pretty much quoted exactly from there. So, images, very similar, but actually improved somewhat in the movie in some areas. And then, of course, story stays very consistent with it, but has to add a lot in the movie. So, movie and book, very similar, both very good. And I want to also talk about this note here from the author. He says, as children, we did not grow up steadily, one day at a time. Occasionally, we would leap forward, getting separated from our mother in the supermarket and, holding panic at bay, finding her on our own could make us instantly feel a year older. It is the same way we felt when we rode off alone on a bicycle for the first time. While most of these experiences left me exhilarated, there was one leap forward that produced less welcome emotions. When I was 8 years old, I began to consider the possibility that Santa Claus was not real. Embracing this suspicion made me feel grown up, very suddenly, and also very unhappily. Leaving behind a belief in Santa meant I would never again experience the enchantment that accompanied the days leading up to Christmas. The exquisite, almost unbearable anticipation of a fairy tale coming to life, a fairy tale that included me, would be gone forever. This didn't feel like growing up. This felt like losing something, like being thrown out of the land of miracles and hearing the gates close behind me. I wanted back in. Fortunately, the Polar Express pulled up to my house that Christmas, taking me on a trip that did lead me back. There is a seat on the train for you. All aboard. So, that's his little note about kind of his heart of this book and this story, the great imagery from it. This is a very good children's book. Recommend reading this as some A material right here. Don't you think so, boy? Yeah? He keeps waiting for me. What are your thoughts on this story? What are some Christmas stories that you read as a child that you still think about highly to this day? Was it Polar Express? Was it something else? let me know in the comments. And thank you for joining me for this Christmas Marathon series. We've concluded for this month. I will see you in 2021. We will continue our 4 video series for each month until the summer season, which begins in June. Until then, this is your friendly neighborhood mailman, the Trojanpear, encouraging you. Keep on reading resources. Blessings. Bye-bye.